Hello and welcome to the lesson on the results. Let's look at where we are in the project management approach by looking at our project management diagram. So here we are, we're still in the executing phase. We are also doing controlling and monitoring, looking back at our writing plan. It's okay to make changes to your writing plan as you go. Just make sure you're making those changes intentionally and not just getting off track because you're not paying attention. The learning outcomes for today's lesson are as follows. You should be able to explain the results of your study without repeating the materials and methods. You should be able to explain the results of your study without presenting discussion material. You should be able to explain the results of your study without repeating the underlying data. And so we're going to get into the difference between data and results shortly. Also, you will be able to refer to figures and tables rather than just announcing them. You will also be able to write appropriate figure legends for a results section and to avoid the common problems in the results section. So what are those common problems in the results section? Well, the first one is that there are missing components, or missing signposts, or missing transition phrases. And so this is going to make it hard for the readers to follow where you're going with the results section. You could also have excessive experimental detail in the results section. In other words, you are repeating the materials and methods as a way to lead up to what the result is going to be. And we'll talk about how to avoid doing that while still giving the reader some context for the results. Another common problem is including comparisons, speculations, and conclusions. So comparisons to other published research, for example. All of these things should be in the discussion section. They should not be in the results section. So that's why it's a common problem. And we need to keep those two sections separated from each other. Unless you're writing a combined results and discussion section, then this does not apply. Next, I would like to give you some tips for writing the results section. You want to use past tense for your results that are specific to your study. There may be times when you're setting the context that you refer to results of another study to explain why you did a certain thing that gave you this result, in which case you might use a different tense. However, when you're referring to your own results, these are things that were done in the past. And so you want to refer to them in the past tense. An example of this is you would say iron-deficient Arabidopsis plants had chlorotic leaves, because you're describing a specific situation that you observed, and you don't want to be generalizing to all Arabidopsis plants at this point. Now, you also might use the present tense for certain results that are always going to be true. For example, the karyotyping results showed that Arabidopsis has 5 pairs of chromosomes. So your results showed that, but you expect that that's always going to be true. So you can state that in the present tense. So think very carefully about tenses in the results section. Most of the time you need to use the past tense. Rarely will you use present tense. Another tip is to use subheadings. You used subheadings in the materials and methods section. I would suggest using them again in the results section. These are really great organizational tools. At least use them in your drafts. Now, you might want to remove them when you go to submit your paper because some journals don't permit subheadings in the results section. Also, remember to use transition phrases. These are words like however, because, therefore, in addition. They're signals to the readers. They're going to guide the readers when you're changing topics, when you're making a comparison or a contrast statement or a contradiction. However, you don't need to go back and repeat introduction material as a transition, and you don't need to bring in discussion material as a transition. What do you put in the results? Are you going to take your entire lab notebook and put everything that you did into the results section? No, you're not going to do that in most cases. You're probably going to put only the most important findings and results. You're not going to include every result that you generated during the project. For example, you probably did some pilot studies to optimize your treatments or the timings of your treatments or to optimize your measurement techniques. And so including all of these things is probably not going to be helpful, and it might even be distracting. Now, I'm not suggesting that you cherry pick your results and only show results that lead readers down a certain path and tell a certain story that you have predetermined. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. I'm just saying that some of the work that you did is just not going to result in publishable results. Now, you might have some results that are not entirely necessary for your scientific story, but they are helpful, and you can put those results into supplementary materials. So let's look at a little bit more detail at signaling and signposting. One thing that's important to do as you write is to signal to the reader which results are the most important ones. These are the ones that provide new knowledge. But at the same time, you can't just leave out results. So you've got to figure out ways to signal and signpost which results are the most important.